The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
God's up, giddy up. Welcome to the Friday Breakdown. Failure to Stop podcast, the number one show in this society culture. I'm sorry. I mistimed all of this. I was mid-sip of coffee, and then it was time for me to go live. I'm embarrassed. A rookie move, rookie mistake. But we are here. If you're tuning in for the first time, this is Failure to Stop Breakdown. We do 4 shows a week here on the Failure to Stop podcast, and this is a breakdown. What are we breaking down today, Drew? Real quick.
We are going to talk about the Nashville school shooting, specifically the Nashville school shooter. We're not going to give her much credit, but we're going to talk about her a little bit, him or her. We're going to debunk some conspiracies and discuss facts, which is something we always aim to do, and we're going to give it the reverence that it deserves, obviously.
Today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. It's sleep so good, literally scary. Woke up this morning feeling good and dandy. You know what I didn't feel like doing when I woke up this morning?
What?
I didn't feel like shooting a fucking school up.
What
else I didn't feel like doing this morning?
What?
I woke up. Domestic violence.
That passed me by as well.
You know why? You know why I didn't feel like doing any of those things?
I have my ideas.
Okay.
I mean, one being that you're a rational human being. Secondly, your back and hips and legs felt wonderful.
Yeah.
Like you slept on a cloud, probably.
Exactly. Because I got a good night's sleep, dude. I got a good night's sleep and I feel good and I feel great. And that's all thanks to ghostbed.com. And I think that that's the world's problems, man. I'm not going to beat you guys down with another ad read because they're putting ad reads into our thing right now anyway. And I don't want to overdo the ad reads because we switched over to Megaphone and Megaphone is throwing ads on top of ads. I'm not sure what's going on with the whole ads thing. This is all new to us. We're all trying to figure it out. But until then, I'm going to go off the rails on the one ad read sponsor that we do have today officially that's not thrown in by Megaphone or whoever is doing our broadcasting these days, and that's for Ghostbed. And so the only way to do that is just keep it lively and keep it entertaining. But I'll tell you this, I think a lot of the world's problems because we're not getting enough sleep. We're not getting enough good sleep. And when you sleep on a ghost bed, when you have a ghost bed, you have a ghost bed pillow, you have the cooling sheets, you have the cooling technology, you have the adjustable base, you have the 0% down, the 0% financing, you have a bed that's made in the good old USA. If you can have Lazaro Lopez credit or Chief Keef credit, you can afford one of these things. And all of that, insurance should pay for your ghost bed. If insurance is paying for your psychological exams and your psychology exams, and your psychiatrists and your, all these things, if they're paying for that, you won't even need that if you just sleep on a daggone ghost bed because a lot of those issues are stemming from not getting a good proper sleep. Those backaches and back pains because you sleep on a shitty bed, that mental health, that domestic violence because you're not getting a good sleep, which leads to having bad kids who, all the world's problems could be solved if everybody slept on a ghost bed. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So please head over to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack and get you a bed that sleeps so good. I know that Drew's flying out to Vegas here pretty soon, shortly at the end of the day's show. We've got a lot to go through. If you want to support the show real quick, hit that like and subscribe button on the YouTubes. 99.999% of our followership does come from our listeners. And so we appreciate you guys. We do have a Patreon account coming for you guys because we know that we pay a lot of attention to our YouTubers and we give them a lot of paid perks. We have a large chat, which almost everybody in the chat today is a paid member. That's incredible. There's 50 paid members in the chats today, which is really great. And somebody just sent us $5 on the super chat, which is a great point. You can support us by leaving a super chat. By the way, the super chats did pay for new titles to all the shows. So all the new shows coming out this week will all have new title intros. Actually, here's one right now for our new Patreon show. We're going to do a Patreon show for our audio listeners. And it's just extra added content. Here's one of the shows that we actually are going to put on there. It's Cum Center from Brazers, brought to you by Brazers. That's Cum Center with Drew Breasy. So that's just a little peek for what you're going to get on our Patreon account. But we do appreciate all your support out there, guys.
I'm taking that you get to, no pun intended, wet your beak on my my OnlyFans money, I guess.
Yeah. Right.
You're
Cum Center coming soon.
The Cum Center.
Coming soon. We appreciate you guys' support. Our YouTube channel grew exponentially over the last week since we've made all of these changes, which is really great, man. Everybody just, the Wolfpack is growing. It's so awesome. We've made just so many moves, and you guys are keeping up with those moves. And so we really, 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 really appreciate it. We do have the meetup coming in where people are flying in from all over, and that's awesome. There's going to be just a lot of fun. And if you still want to get involved in that, hit us up on the social media webs. We'll let you know the hotel that everybody's staying at. But it'll be the 12th of April at Instill Distilling Company, just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. From 5 to 8, and then it'll be at the studio, at the main studio for Failure to Stop, which will be from 8 to 10 p.m. Well, there'll be some hors d'oeuvres and snacks, and plus all the cast and crew. Dead Like Media from Colorado, Jonathan Bates from South Dakota or Montana or Minnesota, wherever he comes from. We have Drew Breasy from Florida, Andrea Uplate coming in town as well, and we'll all be up on stage at the studio for Q&A, and free drinks and free hors d'oeuvres, snacks, things like that. So plus we'll probably do some giveaway stuff too while we're there, so there'll be a lot of fun. If you guys want to get involved on that, feel free to do so. But we have a lot to uncover in today's show. It was a horrific school shooting, and this one's getting a lot of media attention, and we're going to talk about a lot of different ways, and I think the attention is not positive, but it's expected, right? Because we're going through seasons of media, and now we're back to school shooting season. The media is so thirsty right now, and they can't top themselves. I mean, we've had UFOs this year already. We've had catastrophic earthquakes already. We've had just everything's been so extreme that, the media is really, really struggling hard to keep up with the times. And so they're taking an event as tragic as this one and really just a fine-tooth comb, just running it through with a fine-tooth comb and just finding everything that could possibly be insightful, anything that could be inflammatory, anything that can be conspiratorial, anything that could, further their agenda. No holds bar, leaving no stone unturned. And that's what we're seeing going on right now. And we're going to break down each one of those things. I think first what I'd like to get into, Drew, is the comparisons to Uvalde in this case. That was one of the first things that I heard coming from the news mouth was they're still holding on to some kind of weird agenda grudge towards Uvalde. And they were very quick to make a lot of comparisons as if Uvalde wouldn't have happened, would have learned of what we learned from Uvalde to make that happen here. And two, the department and the place that this happened was not anything like Uvalde.
Nothing
like Uvalde. Let's break that down. First and foremost, get that out of the way.
Nashville Metro, just think about this. It's the Nashville Metro Police Department, which indicates it's in a metropolitan area, which means you probably have a densely populated area, which also means you probably have a bunch of cops around, not necessarily patrol, because everybody is understaffed. But when you're working during the day as a detective and you got your radio on, or when there's a bunch of supervisors or administrative staff, even in certain buildings or districts, you got a bunch of cops in the area. They're not responding from 450 miles away or 100 miles away or whatever it is that they dealt with in Uvalde. And relatively speaking, I think they were in the school quicker, which, you could make the argument that they were actually in the school quicker in Uvalde. So they should have reacted a little bit differently, but they didn't. And I still say to this day, I know that we all have differences of opinion on this. And I know, I still firmly believe everything that I've said to this point, and I've never deleted anything off of the internet that I mean, what I say, I've thoroughly researched and I believe in. And if I correct myself, I need to be corrected. I'll correct myself. I'm not afraid of that. But these are two completely different situations. And this is what we're doing here. We got influencers like, I don't even want to mention their names. You have conservative influencers who want to make this comparison because they want to be right about Uvalde. And this isn't about that. This is about 6 little kids. I mean, 3 little kids and 3 school people, teachers and a custodian that died. This is about 21 and 3 in Uvalde that died. That's what the focus should be, not your likes and your follows and all this other stuff and the right fight that you engaged in Uvalde, because it's a passive aggressive statement to say well, this is how it should have gone down. No shit. Every single cop in America thinks the exact same thing. We all wanted it to go down this way. And the Nashville guys, hats off. I've said it a million times. They're heroes. I don't know that they want this kind of attention. Like, you don't want to be a hero in this way, but they're probably not going to reject it. But at the same time, man, this is not the time. What are we celebrating, really? What are we gloating about?
Right.
And we're so desensitized. You're so dead on, Eric, about the mainstream media, that they have peddled this fear porn so much that a school shooting is it's not shocking anymore. It's news, and it sticks around in the news cycle for a couple days, probably longer than a hurricane or something else. But it's not shocking anymore, just because they've desensitized us to the whole thing. This should be. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's sad that we know more about the sexual identity
of
Audrey Hale than we know about the identities of the people who were murdered by Audrey Hale. I think it's sad that the news has spent more time trying to uncover secret lesbian fantasies, right? Because that's what they are. She hasn't written that she had a crush, or at least we haven't seen the evidence that she's had a crush on any of these females. But the news has gone through great lengths to allude to a crush on two different female basketball players who both happen to be black, because that's a great story, right? That makes a great commercial. We have a white trans that's in love with two black women that don't even know she exists. I mean, it's the story that they want to tell, because, hell, I feel like in America that you can't even be married unless you're married biracial. I think you're racist now. I think coming up in probably 2045, if you're not marrying somebody that's of a different race, then you're racist, because every single commercial, every single television show is promoting that and is pushing it and making you feel guilty for not being married to a potential dude or a black person or a Chinese person or something like that. So I think it's very sad, though, that's what we're spending all of our time trying to figure out sexual identities.
I think at the rate we're going, like, Brittany just had a child, and her child's child is probably going to be at the rate we're going, her child's child is going to marry like a dog. You know what I mean? Or like, the dog identifies as a goldfish. So it's cool, right. But that's where we're headed. Like, it's not about what you think. Like, if I look down at my backyard and I saw, you could kind of tell when the deer are in heat. Well, there's no confusion. There's male deers, and they have like these fucking horn things. And then there's female deer who are horny, and they get together. There's no like, I think I was born in the wrong deer body, and I really want to transition into another deer body. Like, no, that's not science. We're men and we're women. And I do understand there's confusion, but I also understand there's indoctrination, like we talked about last week. And there's pumping confusion into young developing minds to make them more confused, to make them to make it seem like you have to pick a team before I even tell you about the sport. And we just learned on our own.
Right. Yeah. It's strange times that we're living in. It absolutely is. But I feel bad that anybody gives any at this point. And we're going to get into this in a second too, about the body camera footage. I'm a huge advocate, and I came out at the very beginning of this when everybody was praising the body camera footage and making all the great jokes, which, hey, listen to it. I'm a comedian. I do comedy. I do stand up. I love the jokes. I can laugh at the jokes, and I think they're great jokes. However, I think it's inappropriate to have had that body camera released so quickly. I have said from the beginning of the body camera time, when I was a law enforcement officer, that body cameras, it should be doctrinal. when a body camera footage can be released. And I think that it goes by a time. And I've thought this out, and I've had this debate with several other people, so I'm not going to change my mind on this. I feel in my heart that minimum any body camera footage from any without, there is no gray area. You do not release body camera for the first 2 weeks of an incident. Any incident across the board, whether you think the police are corrupt or you think they did a great job, it doesn't matter, because more bad things can happen when you release body camera footage early than it can if you wait. And I've always said that 2 weeks. And for this is my perfect example, because this family has no room to grieve. Their brains are scattered. And we're pulling them in all sorts of directions. We have conspiracy theories that were debunked in several other cases many moons before this case, and that's the whole shoe theory. There's in great detail about how pixels on cameras can distort all things. Even the fire alarm looks completely different when you look at the fire alarm and the thing. Did they change the fire alarm too in this conspiracy theory? But now you've got a grieving family worrying about conspiracies, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. You've got this family worried about this fucking identity of a murderer. I don't give a fuck if it's a she, him, her, or anything. And tell me I'm complicit in transphobia. Get fucked, man. Get fucked. Who cares about this piece of shit? It's a murderer. If Dr. Rargay McGanglioch murders his family, I'm not calling him Dr. McGanglioch. He's just some asshole that murdered his family. So I don't give a fuck what this thing identifies itself as. I could give a fuck. It's an it. I don't even want to say its name because it's a murdering scumbag. It has nothing to do with transphobia or Christian phobia. This is a piece of shit who murdered people. And by the way, kind of appears that he did it because they were Christians. And listen, there's rumor right now of some kind of past transgressions against this person where it had some childhood trauma. And I sympathize and I empathize with the child, but this isn't a child. He's 28 years old. So now I don't empathize with a child. What a child does from childhood trauma is that, but once it becomes an adult, it's an adult now, and you have to do adult things. And I'm sorry, but 99% of Americans could argue that their trauma is greater than the next. So everybody has trauma, and everybody has some sort of trauma. Loved ones dying of cancer that they have to watch painfully die, or having that creepy uncle, God forbid, or having that creepy school teacher. I mean, everywhere you go, you were bullied, or you were diddled, or you had to watch your mom pass away from cancer, or you were raised by religious zealots. I mean, everybody has a trauma, and when you act on that as a kid, I empathize with that. But when you become an adult, then you take responsibility for those actions. And dealing with it by murdering people, murdering children, you lose your pronouns. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not. I have a little different take on this. I know this may shock you, but I couldn't give a shit less about the pronouns, in the sense that if the world wants me to call me a him, if the world wants me to call that murderer him or her, why is that the focus? It's fucking irrelevant. And if we're going to go on this argument that, well, they were just so troubled and tortured, and that, and that's, yesterday, the White House spokesperson, who does not have my best interest in heart and does not speak for the American people, in my opinion, said that she said, quote, "Our hearts and our thoughts," or whatever it was that she said, "go out to the trans community because they are under attack."
No.
And that's not how I feel at all.
What about when the redneck, when was that redneck that went into that black church? Fucked up all those
Dylan
people?
Roof?
Yeah. And then we all, there was this huge run on getting rid of the rebel flags. Did anybody say, like, our hearts and minds go out to the rednecks who are under attack right now? Like, no, nobody gives a fuck about the rednecks right now. It's not about the rednecks. Our hearts and prayers go out to the innocent black people that were just trying to go to fucking church and got waxed by some psycho idiot. Our hearts and prayers don't go out to fucking rednecks.
Even the trans community, I can't imagine, and I don't know the numbers. Maybe I'm completely ignorant in this one. I know it's not 60% of the fucking country, and I'm willing to wager it's less than 1%. So if less than 1% is offended by some people who really just can't process what they're doing, I think maybe they probably need to understand that it's a little tough to process at times. And I don't feel that the trans community is under attack. I think that it's manufactured that the trans community is under attack.
Yeah, I'm not like wait, a trans fucking killed kids in a Christian school.
Let me go.
Bring out the trans folks right now. Bring them out,
honey. I need the tiki torch. Yes, the tiki.
I need my
torches.
pitchfork.
Yes,
where's my pitchfork? I left it here.
Now
I'm tired of you guys moving my pitchfork. It's riot season.
Somebody
come
give
on.
me a trans.
I've got trans people to harass because nobody gives a fuck. Like nobody.
I promise you, I couldn't give a shit
about this thing's pronouns or its transgenderism or its sex. It's like if somebody was going into a school shooter and they just happened to like anal sex. Like I would care just as little. I'm like, who fucking cares what kind of sex this person likes? Who cares?
It's just a complete fucking distraction from the fact that
nonsense.
Whatever they identify as, why are we even talking about whatever they identify as? Somebody walked into a fucking school or walked up to a school and shot through the windows and violently entered it and then
changed their shoes.
And then entered in certain rooms. And first of all, from reports that I've heard, obviously not seen, murdered a 9-year-old child pulling a fire alarm to alert everybody else. Okay.
There goes
I don't give a fuck about your pronouns. I don't give a fuck if you're a man or a woman. You're a monster. And I'm more concerned about the 9-year-old. I have a 9-year-old stepkid. I'm more concerned. I don't know what I would do if that, like, I can't even
in bloodlines
stomach to think about it. Like
in bloodlines, I'll tell you that much. And, it would be her bloodline, not like any particular
I do understand
trans
too, though,
thing.
I do understand that this pendulum swings both ways, because there are going to be conservatives, or there are going to be ultra Christians, or Christians that just perseverate on the fact that, see, they're trans and they're fucked up and they're going to come in and murder all the kids. And like, we're still focusing on the wrong thing.
And we're also forgetting that she targeted particular kids. It looks like that, at least.
It looks like that.
It looks like she was going after the
pastor's child.
The pastor's child. And was it the pastor? Was he one of the ones that got?
The headmaster, the head teacher, she was one of the ones. There was a substitute teacher that day and a custodian. I don't.
Remember, Uvalde, this guy murdered 22 people like in the first 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. So this person was not Uvalde. Okay. This person was walking through the hallways. If you look at the tapes too, this chick was she knew what she was going after because she was looking for it. She wasn't looking to kill everyone. She had particular people in mind that she wanted to kill. And I think what's more important is, while you're caught up on its pronouns, what we should be caught up in is why. What happened? Okay, my first thing before all of this stuff came out, when I heard a trans human went into a Christian school, asked my wife, the first thing that came out of my mouth, I said, I wonder which one of those priests diddled her or him to cause this sexual trauma. Because a lot of times, the transsexual. Now, if you say this, if I say a lot of transgender people had sexual trauma in their life, they would be like, well, that's not fair. I was born this way. But now I can say it because they're like, well, maybe she had some sexual trauma and that's why she went into this school. So now sexual trauma can cause you to be trans. I'm confused. I'm super confused here, but it does make sense that sexual trauma can cause you to have, confusion of your sexual
unresolved
identity.
trauma.
Yeah. And right. So my first question was, let's go and start deep diving what kind of sexual trauma she endured that caused her to go off the rails like this. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody cares about that. But I still think it's a viable question. I'd like to see that. I would like to know if the manifesto had anything to say about that. But again, it does not give you an excuse to kill children or innocent people. Period.
No.
If I go to war with the Taliban, I don't get to just fucking kill Taliban sympathizers
or their kids.
So do I forgive children for doing children shit? Always. I always empathize and I always sympathize with what children do and how they react because their brains aren't fully developed. Understand that. But she's 28 years old and living with her mommy and daddy too. And I think that's something important that we're not all talking about. Mom and dad aren't off the hook for this, in my opinion. Matter of fact, I think, I've said it before, piss a lot of people off. I think one of the greatest failures in life as a parent is if your kid commits suicide or if your kid is a school shooter. I think you should look back at your parenting and admit that you fucked up somewhere. Don't know where. Not saying you did it maliciously, but you've got to be able to, if you're going to fix it for the next time, if you're going to help other people not make the same mistake, you got to take a deep look and say, like, I ultimately fucked up. Whatever I did as a parent, it wasn't right, because now my kid is dead and thought the only way out was suicide, or the only way out was to go and shoot innocent people.
You don't think that they generally feel that, though? Or I mean, you don't think that that's...
Well, I say that in reference to the Columbine woman, because I don't feel like she speaks out about her son being a school shooter. And I don't know that and the reason why I've never liked her is because I don't really believe that she takes full credit for what her son did. I don't think she takes extreme credit for it. I think she's just making money. She's got a lot of fans, though. And I've argued with a lot of people. And listen, I'm a C student at best. So if you're taking what I'm saying and thinking in your brain that you have to believe what I believe, I mean,
you're not a good parent.
You have a problem. But my personal belief in this is that, I would be, looking at my children, I pretty much wake up every day and I say, like, how do I create a life for this child that doesn't make them want to commit suicide, and give them the mental fortitude to overcome things? And how do I prevent them from ever being a school shooter? And I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah, I disagree with you. I'll just say that.
Okay. I'd love to know what part.
Individuals are individuals, right? And not every single individual who commits suicide has a strained relationship with their parents, or there are maybe.
All right, well, maybe I should have caveated that to, like, in childhood, like if you commit suicide before before college, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get it. Like, once you become 21 or 20, like, you start you going down your own path. Like, after 18, I should have caveated that. I believe that if you have a child that commits suicide or a child that is a school shooter.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. You know what? It's interesting. I
shouldn't have said adult, because adult trauma is adult trauma, and adults deal with adult things individually. So let me go back.
How about this, though?
Correct.
Like, there are studies, or there are what do they call theories that haven't been proven, I guess, or maybe they have and they've been pushed down deep, that a lot of these school shooters are all on the same medication. So if they're suffering from some type of depression, or they're suffering from some type of deficiency or whatever, and they're on a certain medication, what if the common link is, like, they're all on I don't know, Zarquan? Like, I hopefully I just made that up, but, like, if they're all taking Zarquan, and don't you think that could be a common theme? And that's just, it's altering the chemicals in your brain. So think about this: when you're
okay, again, who allowed their kid to take the Zorcan? Who didn't do their research on Zorcan?
So what are you going to do when your kid is deficient in insulin? Are you going to give him? And the kid is diabetic? Are you going to feed the kid insulin?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the difference if the kid is deficient in serotonin in their mind? Would you give them the medicine to? I mean, what's the difference between diabetes and some type of mania, some type of medically diagnosed?
Well, no, I mean. Listen, we can make that argument with ADHD all day long. Like, okay, for like low testosterone, like I had low T, right? But instead of going on low T medicine, my wife put me on a diet to boost testosterone, and put me on a routine that would naturally boost my testosterone. Worked out wonderfully, as you can see.
Well, I was going to say, I think she needs to. She needs to back that down a little bit.
Calm it back down a little bit.
She's probably,
I believe in extreme ownership, especially as a parent. And parenting is not easy, man. There are days where, you're not going to have a great day as a parent, but you wake up that next day and you say, damn, yesterday was not a good day. What led up to that? What changes do I need to make so it doesn't happen again? Or what am I doing like psychologically on the long term? And I deal with this constantly because I walk a very gray area with what my kids do. My kids are very active in podcasting world at 10 years old. My kids are, sponsored skateboarders who are in magazines and travel to do live meetups and everything at 10 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old. They're competing and events that have a lot of pressure on them at 10 and 8 years old. So I'm walking a very fine line. And every day I have to ask myself, okay, what are the long-term effects of this? And is it going to fuck them up? And I make choices based on not fucking them up. And I think, now listen, my oldest is only 10. So come 16, I'll know if I did it right or not. But I tell you what, if my kids turns out to be 16, ultimately depressed and takes enough, I'll know that I fucked up extremely bad. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to tell other people how I fucked that up and where I went wrong and what I did wrong. If my kid gets caught up in drugs and alcohol at 16, I'll know I have fucked up now. I'll know that I have fucked up in whatever it was that I did that caused my son, or I didn't teach him the right ways to do that. Somebody had mentioned, if a kid gets bullied and he kills himself, is it the parent's fault? I'd say it is. I'd say it is the parent's fault, because you should know that your kid's being bullied, and you should be working, one, to deal with him not being bullied, and two, working on his confidence and working on ways to get him not to be bullied. I'm telling you right now, my kid goes somewhere and gets bullied, he won't be bullied there tomorrow. Promise. Because either he won't be there tomorrow, my kid won't be there tomorrow, or the school system or whatever system allowed the bullies to do that will have fixed the problem. But I'm not going to put up with my kid getting bullied to the point where he wants to commit suicide. Not going to happen.
Right, but you're banking on the fact that you're able to A, read it, or B, intervene in it, or C, know what's happening. So but if you don't know what's happening in your kid's
then that's
classroom,
a parenting flaw, is it not?
No, it's not. Because what if the kid doesn't tell you about it? What if the kid is acting a little bit differently and you try everything in your power to get it out of him, but he's not telling you because he's developing?
So I think it's more or less you're working too much and you're blowing it off.
I'm retired.
I'm not talking about you. What, is your kid getting bullied right now?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like if there is a sadness in the 9-year-old kid that I want to get out of him, we can sit and talk to him for days. He's not going to tell you. He won't tell you. Kids are developing. They think that there's some form of failure, or they think that they're not being strong enough. Like, there's some complications in this. I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of personal stuff, but it's not cut and dry every single time. Like he's not going to come home and hand you a note and say, I'm being bullied at school, so can you fucking go in and stick up for me? It just doesn't work that way. Kids are still developing, and kids don't know how to communicate properly. You bring a point. Like if you're involved in the kid's life, you'll be able to detect a change in the weather pretty quickly, and then you got to get to the bottom of it. But it's not always that easy. It's not always that simple, in my opinion. And
I'm not saying it's simple, Drew. I'm not saying that it's simple. But I'm saying that's the point. It takes critical thinking, and before you choose to put something into your child, medication, before a lot of the problems, especially with like bullying and things, I watch what people put. And listen, maybe I'm lucky because I have a wife that's extremely smart and educated on these things, but the foods that parents allow their kids to eat.
Yeah, it's the diet.
The diets is insane. It's insane to me to watch what the kids that come to my house are eating after school, or when they come over for a sleepover, and what they're consuming super late at night, or what their parents pack in their bags to bring to the house. Or when I let my kids go to somebody else's house and they tell me how late they stayed up. It's never appropriate at 10 years old to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning. And you're not a cool parent for allowing it to happen. You're not a cool parent because you allowed your kids to play violent video games at 10 years old till 3 o'clock in the morning. And so then I hear the excuses of this child may, suffers from ADHD. Does he suffer from ADHD, or does he suffer from a fucking terrible diet? And you were just allowing them to do whatever the fuck they want to do and play horrendous video games. I think there's a lot more excuses being made for the problems that we're creating. And we're creating those by bad dieting, by allowing poor medications to be put into your child. Drew, there are kids right now that are having the melatonin. Is it melatonin that puts you to sleep?
Well, yeah, melatonin, yeah.
And I know this from a school nurse who had this conversation with me, that she's dealing with a child who is taking like the highest allowed dose of Ritalin and is also taking the highest dose allowed for melatonin in kindergarten.
Yeah.
That kid is fucked. That kid's going to be a
screen.
school shooter, and that's his parents' fault.
It's the blue screens also. Like the blue screens
blue
are going to interrupt your melatonin
and look,
so
it's
you're not
not fair,
sleep.
and it does suck.
Yeah,
but that's just part of life. I mean, I don't know. That's just where I think it's like I think 99. Well, not even. I don't want to throw a percent out there, but I think there's more parents out there today that check the block with parenting than actually try to critically think and try to hold themselves accountable and responsible for their children's outcomes and the responsibilities. And I can see that simply by observing what I see on a daily basis at skate parks. You know, I told a story, I think on last call, where a child came over to me on this scooter with a bicycle helmet. And sir, can you watch me? Sir, watch me do this. Hey, can you video me? Sir, can you video me? Yeah, hang on, buddy. I'm trying to videotape my kid over here. Hey, can you do me next? Can you video me next? Yeah, man, just hold on. Hey, watch me do this. And the kid's not even really doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have any tricks in his thing. And I was getting frustrated. But then for a second, I thought to myself, wait a minute. Before I just blow this kid off, maybe I should see, like, this kid is begging for attention.
Yeah.
It's a school day. It's 11 o'clock in the morning on a school day. This kid's not in school. There's no other parents out here. And he's begging me for attention. Instead of me blowing him off and being a part of a problem, right? It takes a village to raise a child or whatever. I turned around and I said, yeah, homie, what you got? And he's like, watch this. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. Yes, dude, let's go. And then I said, I'm going to spend the rest of my afternoon trying to see how good I can make this kid. So we start working around the park and we have a great time. Like, I'm getting this kid starting to actually go down some hills and do some things. And he's locked in. And then I said, hey, dude, where's your dad? Oh, he's right over there. What? There's only one person at the skate park, and it's this morbidly obese human being sitting on a computer with headphones like these, sitting at the park. And kudos to him for bringing his kid out there. But he just watched this kid just talk to me and had me video and film him and photograph him and work with him for over an hour. And your fat fucking ass didn't get off that fucking bench and make sure I'm not some kind of pedo creep, or that you should maybe like feel bad or explain that, why you're not paying attention to any of your kids. I don't know. I think if your kid commits suicide before you're 18 or your kid's a school shooter, I think 99.999% of the time it's the parents that have responsibility to play in that. That's my belief on that.
That's your opinion.
I know it's my opinion.
I know we went way down a rabbit hole here. If you ever wanted to,
Dad cucked.
if you ever wanted to, like, enlighten your children or yourselves on a good documentary, watch the Vinnie Tordrich documentary. It's called Fat, a Documentary, and it talks all about the evolution of how sugar made it into the food pyramid and how the government destroyed anybody that was trying to make you live healthy, and what it did to I'm trying to think of the Hollywood producer. His son was having all these seizures, like hundreds of seizures a day, and they cut his sugars out. They did all this other stuff, and all of a sudden, guess what? No more seizures. It's just like, it's not that much of science. It's the processing in the food, or it's the sugar, or it's something in the diet or in the gut or somewhere. And they say the gut is like the second brain. And so, we're all on the go. We're all eating fast food, or not all of us, but, not every one of us is eating a nutritional meal 3 times a day. And this is where it's coming from.
My wife had a very similar story. And the funny thing about my wife's story, she was in the 5th grade, which is why my wife reads medical books that are like ultra thick on everything that we do for the kids. And again, my wife's literally the smartest person that I know. And she's got degrees and grades to back that up. So, but her parents tried everything, from stomach issues, and before they did something drastic, I don't know if it was like removing part of her stomach or something like that, they decided to go completely vegan for a year. And they cut out all sugars and carbs. No, it was they cut out all sugars and carbs and meat and everything. So I don't know. So, it's something wazoo. You'd have to ask my wife about it. But anyway, it cured her. And she didn't miraculous. And she went back to the doctor, and the doctor said, no, that's probably just a coincidence. We're still going to put her on this medication and keep her on this medication. And her parents are like, we haven't given her that medication in over a year, and she's fine. We don't need this medication. So, and I think that's probably a big reason why my wife is super cautious on what kind of medications. I remember the first time my dad found out that I was diagnosed with ADHD, or they tried to diagnose me, and they wanted to put me on some medication. And I remember sitting in the guidance counselor's office, and my dad said, wait a minute. So my son's not paying attention. And you've brought me in here to tell me that he's not paying attention. And your solution to him not paying attention is to give him medication. Why didn't you let me know that he wasn't paying attention before it got to this point? Like, I feel like there had to be at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times that he wasn't paying attention that it annoyed you, because I can make him pay attention real quick. And he looked at me and he said, I can make him pay attention real quick. And they were like, eh? And my dad was like, we got done out of there. And he was like, you'll pay attention or I'll beat your ass. Like, if I ever get a call to your principal's office because you're not paying attention, are you kidding me? He's like, you won't have a quality of life. And my dad was the type that, he would take away things and make me earn it back. If you wanted to have, certain things in your bedroom, toys, TVs, video games, CD players, anything like that, dinner, then you had to earn that right. But I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to know what this girl's family life was like. She lived at home. The first thing that makes me think, and what brought me on this whole rant about the parents thing is that you've got, and somebody mentioned it in the chats, that she was under doctor's care for emotional distress. And I've read that in several articles. What does that mean, Drew? You're under doctor's care. Does that mean you just have appointments? Like therapy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is under doctor's care?
I would think that it means there's a diagnosis and there's some type of ongoing treatment.
Right. But when you word it like that, it makes you think that like she's got like a doctor at the house with her at all times. That's not true.
I guess.
Right? Doesn't it kind of paint that picture when it says she was under a doctor's care for emotional disorders? Okay, now where I'm getting with this is, if she has emotional disorders and she lives at home and she has 3 assault rifles, a handgun, and 2 illegally sawed off shotguns in your household, you don't think that's a parenting issue? Even though she's 28? You gonna allow that into your house? If your 28-year-old kid comes back to live with you and has emotional disorders and is under a doctor's care, you gonna allow sawed-off shotguns in your house? Is that the kind of roost you're?
Are you gonna know though? Are you gonna search your 28-year-old kid's room?
100%. My mom cleaned my room, or is in my room every single day, putting away laundry, folding laundry, doing all the things that a great mom does. That a spoiled son reaps the benefits of. I'm just kidding. But my mom would, she would do things in my room. And when I got to a certain age, I had said, like, Mom, stop going in my room. Like, can't you just leave the folded laundry up? She goes, this is my house. I'll go in that bedroom if I want to.
I'm going to tell you, your mom did great things in my room as well. But I'm just saying, when 28 years old and you got somebody living in your home and another adult, I think that there probably is like a boundary of respecting privacy, and it does, I'll concede, you got a 28-year-old living in your fucking house. I mean, it may not be the parents' fault. Like, I'm sure that they're probably like, hey, think about maybe getting a fucking job in an apartment today, or are we gonna no yeah, I mean, I had a guy living at my house who was going through some crazy times here just recently in the last year or so, and I found a magazine, or whatever you want to call it, a clip, a magazine, and I know that this dude probably shouldn't have one of those, and I confronted him. I said, dude, what's up with this magazine? He's like, oh, I borrowed a gun from so and so. I said, why? And he's like, because this
illicit relationship that I'm having, which is why him and his wife were split up, which was why he was staying at the house for a little bit. He's afraid this guy was going to come after him. And I said, so you think that somebody's going to come after you, and you thought it was a good idea to go borrow somebody else's firearm and then to keep it into my house to the point where I see your magazine laying out in arm's reach in an unlocked room of my children. You think that's
right?
Okay. And of course, this guy lasted like 2 more seconds in my house before he went back to being homeless and sleeping in the laundromat for a couple of nights before he found somebody else to crash with. But, I'm sorry, but it's your responsibility, man. It's your household. You're the king of your castle, baby. And I don't care who's in my house, dude. I just think that that's just one of many things that's a parenting flaw. One, you got your 28-year-old living with you. 2, they've got several illegal firearms inside of your house. They're writing back and forth on Instagram of a childlike flirtatious relationship with people who no longer know them. I mean, how many red flags do you think the parents just ignored?
Yeah,
it just seems like a lot. We're not talking about like a rare case here, Drew.
Ignore though. I just don't know the depth of the under the doctor's care. I mean, if she's on the autism spectrum or whatever, but I mean, then if that's the case, how did we get to the point where they transition? Like, did we, shouldn't we be exhausting all things before discussing gender affirming bullshit? Sure. Or, this under the doctor's care, it kind of intimidates me, to be honest. Like, what if she really is emotionally disturbed or just like mentally retarded in a sense? And
she shouldn't be allowed to have
assault
firearms, handguns, and sawed-off shotguns.
No, you're right, but that also gets into another rabbit hole of red flag laws and who can own the Second Amendment issues. Like, how are you going to limit that? You know what I mean?
I read, and I think a reason why a lot of my anger comes from this is she's even described as by a neighbor as someone who thoroughly enjoyed video games, hanging out on the computer, and heavily involved in social media. I read another one. The family comes from good people. She enjoyed sports, video gaming. It just doesn't paint a picture. And listen, because I know these video gamers, man, and I know a lot of these video gamers, and there's probably people in our chats that are going to be upset about this, but man, there's some parents out there, dude, that, and I get on this thing a lot, and I guess it's because I wish you knew how much it frustrated me, Drew. I hear it a lot, and it does upset me when people send me messages constantly about, I wish my 10-year-old would do something. My 8-year-old could never do that. Wow, your kid has great speaking. I don't like to hear that. I don't like to hear that because I'm a C student at best, and nothing that I'm doing is any like kind of groundbreaking discovery on parenting. I'm not like a Dr. fucking Phil. All right. Matter of fact, I probably tell my kids to get fucked more than I should. So I don't like to hear it because I feel like a hypocrite when I hear these things. But I'm also hearing these things from parents who I know love their video games, who love to go out during the week, who love to involve themselves into social media and do other things. They're not taking the time to create an environment like that for their kid, and then they're trying to make me feel bad about how they wish that their kid would do that. And I say to them, like, well, maybe if you weren't on video games so much, maybe if you weren't going out so much, maybe if you took that time and put it into your kids.
Yeah, there's a part of me that says, like, look, not everybody can afford the experience of, you got 2 full-time parents, two parents that are working full-time, blah, blah, blah. But you're right in the sense that what's important? What are your priorities? What are you able to make do by doing what you did? You know what I mean? Like, you left your job and you found, you opened a distillery and to be with your family more, to build a family that way, to be like directly involved in building a business and building a family at the same time, and not be like enveloped in rising in the ranks of being a detective and all this other bullshit that just everyone gets so wrapped up in it, and when you got two parents that are doing that, and that's societal too. I mean, everybody wants to talk about equal rights and this and that, and okay, well, this is where we're at, and we have plenty of single parent homes, and we have plenty of neglected children, and we have obese dudes sitting on the park bench with fucking beats on their ears while their kids are being creepily videotaped by Eric Tansey. I mean, what are we gonna do?
Which, by the way, I was fake videoing because I didn't want to like go into the whole thing like let's go ask your parent, because I honestly didn't think that this kid's parent was there. I did not think the fucking creepy dude on the bench with the beats on was this kid's parent.
Right. Hey, cool your son, man.
Yeah, so I was like fake doing it with the phone, like just to encourage the child,
right.
Who was extremely annoying, and I felt bad for her, and I still have a lot of questions about that, but I don't know, man. I think and I'm not gonna beat the dead horse. I'll stop, but I just think that there's a lot of excuses that go out these days. There's more excuses than there are people willing to make change or willing to make parenting a priority. And I think it leads to the extreme, right? And if you've got a 28-year-old in your house, and they have emotional disorders and crises, and they're known to frequent video games and frequent social media, and that's what they're known to by the neighbor. Like that was what the neighbor says. Oh, she was all I know is she really liked her video games. She really liked her, she was very involved on social media. Okay, what are the two things that are known to cause anxiety and are caused to trigger things like ADHD? Like there's tons of research about it.
I'd go with video games and something else,
and phones and social media and games on phones, right?
So no doubt.
If those are the two leading things that your neighbors notice about your child, like, and at 28 years old they're living under your roof. I'm sorry, if you're 28 years old and you're struggling in life and you're having an emotional crisis, and I'm your parent, or if you're living under my roof, I'm gonna say right now, I would shame you every time you got on a video game, and I would shame you every time you got on your phone, to the point where you would either move out and go do it somewhere else, or you would stop. But not in my house. Dude, it's like when kids come over, I tell them, you're not doing TikToks at my house. We're not doing video Instagrammies at my house. If you're here to play with my kids, go jump on the trampoline, go skateboard on the ramp, go build a fort out in the woods, go play with blocks in the bedroom, go draw you a picture, but we're not doing video games. And the kids still play at my house. They don't stop coming because they can't do those things. So I don't think it's a deal breaker, but I think as a parent, or, and obviously, I'm not too far from the truth, because this woman went to the extreme to fucking murder people.
Yeah.
And children.
Yes. And again, I mean, that should be that's where we started, and that's kind of where we're tightening up. Yep. I mean, it begins and ends with the fact that this, whether there's a diagnosis or not, she fucking murdered kids, little baby kid, little 9-year-old.
Whatever we did to raise this human being as a village, we're all wrong, because it happened.
Yeah. Right.
We allowed this to happen. We allowed this through our society norms, through media.
Desensitized through the media. Maybe there's a blurred reality in the video games. So, she thinks it's okay to fucking go shoot up the schools because that's what that's what you do on a video game or whatever. I'm not making excuses by any stretch, but I'm saying, these are things that are being put in front of people, and they're making this decision to kill little kids. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, there's nothing more disgusting than that, and your brain has got to be seriously warped. And listen, guys, like, I'm not a hypocrite, right? I let my kids watch the new Mortal Kombat. Totally regret it. We watched it the other night. My wife was out for the evening, running the distillery. I didn't want to spread my flu or whatever I had going on to the distillery, so I stayed home with the kids. Thought it would be fun to kick back and watch the old Mortal Kombat. It was like PG-13 or something. Maybe I misread the rating, but I should not have let my fucking kids watch it. That was the most violent, gory, like over the top movie ever. And I've done a lot of explaining to my kids about that. So, like, I'm not a perfect parent here. So I'm not afraid to call out my own faults here, which, like I said, again, C student. So if you're taking everything I say as gold, well, you've got a lot of issues too. Before we hang up here, and we got about 5 minutes left here, let's talk about the shoe conspiracy, because I know that you wanted to talk about that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This inflames me, because again, this is another, pronoun issue. Like we're fucking that guy. I put, if you're not following me on Instagram, this is a shameless plug. Go to Drew_Breasy, Breasy, and look at my story from yesterday. There's a guy named Max Schachter, I believe his name is, and his son Alex was murdered in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas at the high school. At the high school in oh man, what a bad moment. In Parkland there, and he's a very humble yet brave human being who has to me, ultimate say on this matter because it directly affected him. His son was murdered by a fucking school shooter. Everybody else who has an opinion about a stupid shoe that they don't understand about video, the concept of video versus, the naked eye, or everybody that has an opinion, whether you're in the White House pulpit or, in your neighbor's backyard and you're talking about pronouns, you're missing the point. Listen to what Safe Schools for Alex is one of their Instagram accounts. Listen to what this guy is trying to tell you. It's more about the law enforcement response and all that. Like I'll give you that's the thing that's on my story. He's saying, look, all the cops want this the same way. And he's more pushing for having SROs in every school, whether, there wouldn't have been an SRO in this school if this were Tampa, if this shooting took place in Tampa, because it's a private school. It's a Presbyterian school or whatever it was. It wasn't. So but his push is like anywhere there's kids that are gathering for school deserves some type of armed security. And it's not about guns, and it's not about like, that's the answer. Guns are the answer, but it sure is about securing these kids. And we have these conversations over and over again, and we're missing the fucking point when we're not talking about the victims. Like everything else is noise. You can't.
But I don't want my kids to feel like they're going to school in a prison.
Well, right. Well,
do you feel like a prison when you go visit the White House? Do you know how many fucking security guards are? Do you feel like a prison when you go to the bank? Do you know how much security they got going on in the bank? Like,
I got news for you. Your kid is trading cigarettes for crackers in the bathroom, just like in prison. So,
just like prison,
right? And they're just because they're 10 doesn't mean shit.
They get outside time. They get their hour of outside time, just like prison.
Right. That fucking yeah. Right. The elementary school up the road from me looks like Pelican Bay at recess, but they're out there pumping iron. It's But look, I mean,
yelling out the windows.
The shoe conspiracy is that's enough to piss me off. Like, so I've 2 or 3 people hit me in the DMs about this. Somebody who I follow, who I kind of respect, and I like their opinion, and I thought highly of, asserted this shoe theory about Pumas versus fucking Vans, and look at the surveillance video. And I'm telling you, the first comment I wrote on there was, if you truly believe this, I cannot tell you how disappointed I am. Like, it's not just that the information isn't available out there to understand that what you see with the naked eye is not what a surveillance camera sees. It's a surveillance camera is a machine, and it's going to be processed. The pixels are going to be processed. And this came out in the Curtis Reeves trial, which is something we're going to break down. Here's a spoiler alert, a preview. Curtis Reeves was a captain with the Tampa Police Department, and he was involved in an altercation. He was an old man in his 70s or 80s, and he was involved in an altercation in a movie theater here in North Tampa, or just north of Tampa. Felt threatened by the guy that was in front of him. They got into a little scuffle. Curtis Reeves pulled out his gun and shot him, took one shot, and it killed the guy. The guy was a veteran, so everybody piled on the fact that, this road cop, retired cop, just felt like killing a veteran, which wasn't the case. It was an old man that was about to get his ass whipped, and he defended himself. In the trial itself, though, what was at issue was the surveillance video, and when, at what point he pulled the gun out, or there was some kind of issue about that. So I learned a lot about interpolation, or I learned a lot about video just watching that trial. Then it came up in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. If you'll remember the pinch to zoom issue in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, guys, the video or still shots or screenshots or anything you're seeing, that indicate that that's a Puma and not a van, it's a computer telling you that. It's a computer. When the computer doesn't have enough information to fill in the exact colors and pixels, it guesses. It pulls, the neighboring pixel and says, okay, this is probably going to be kind of black here. This is going to be a little bit yellow here. So if you look at I do agree that when you look at the footage, no pun intended, and when you look at the footage, it does look like there's a Puma sneaker while she's walking through the building. And when she's dead on the ground, she's definitely wearing Vans. But it's also a curvy line that could look like a Puma that has the pixels filled in. Elijah, do we have the guy giving expert testimony, or the detective at least talking about it? Or do you want me to run that?
And what is this sampling that you talk about?
The bicubic and smart resize.
Yes.
Those are two different algorithms that use to interpolate that information.
So do these algorithms so let me ask this way. On a digital photograph, to make it bigger, do you have to add pixels?
You do have to add pixels, yes.
So if I take a photo from my phone and I want it on a 5x7, I'd be adding pixels to it.
You would be.
So this is something that's commonly done to photographs.
It is, yes.
Now, these algorithms, how do they know, to the best of your knowledge, how to add the pixels?
To my best of my knowledge, it depends on the algorithm, and that's the extent of my expertise on that.
So what is the sampling process?
The sampling process is looking at the pixels and providing more data to that file.
So it looks at the pixels and looks at what's around it, and that's how it adds the pixels.
That is correct.
My point is this. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
You sit down with a parent and you look them in the eye and say, I know that your 9-year-old was murdered. Mm-hmm. It's a little funky, though, that the murderer walked around in a pair of Pumas and is caught dead in a pair of Vans. You got to admit, these are crisis actors. We think that come on, man. Have a little fucking common sense. Have a little common decency. You're not looking at the shoes with naked eyes. Don't push the conspiracy. Alex Jones is hundreds of millions of dollars in debt for doing the same fucking thing on a bigger scale.
And just wait, again, that's why I say the whole 2-week thing. If we waited 2 weeks, then none of this would be that big of a deal. The parents would have been okay, they've had 2 weeks, but they were putting up with this conspiracy thing within 48 hours of their kid. Now they're being called crisis actors or not real parents that don't have real dead fucking kids. Here's another thing to ask yourself before you post some dumb shit like that. If the government fucking plotted to do a school shooting, do you think that you think this is like the Alec Baldwin set where they're between clips 1 and 2 I'm gonna change my shoes really quick, but I'll change back into the original? Fucking crazy. And how about this? Did you ever think for a second that even this could be a theory? Although it's not. She was wearing those Vans from the minute she entered the school to the minute she left the school. But if you thought she might have changed her shoes, could it not have been that she smoked a whole bunch of people and then decided, hey, I'm going to go and change my shoes, change my top, and take this stupid red hat off, and then I'm going to blend in with these other students or something? You know what I mean? I'm saying there's tens and 20s of different outcomes or reasons why someone might change their shoe in the middle of a ordeal.
Yeah, that's
other
true.
than the government created another school shooting. I don't know, man. I'm with you on this one. Let's think before we post some stupid shit.
Yes.
Let's do a lot of research and ask ourselves some questions. Let's wait a week, but we don't. We want those clicks right now. We want to be the first one to have this.
That's it right there. You gotta break. If you break the news, everybody else has to credit you, and that's going to drive advertisers to your site so you can charge more for advertisers. It's about fucking money. And we're not talking about the life or the death actually of some 9-year-old kids, man. Have some reverence. Just chill out. If you're an influencer or whatever, just chill out about it. I mean,
right.
You could talk about it. I think like I said at the beginning, we've lost sensitivity in these cases. We need to talk about it more and try to figure out what the root cause is. But let's not talk about fucking conspiracies. Not 48 hours or 24 hours after the shit.
Yeah, and I'm down with the conspiracy thing. I'm also down with let's not make the police be heroes in the first hour. It's not about the cops. It's not about the police. They did their fucking job, dude. That's their job. I'm sorry, that's their job.
I love those guys. They obviously trained. They did that flawlessly.
Dude,
I'm so happy that
incredible,
that
dude.
it turned out that way. Do you think?
I'll give them a high five.
Any of those guys though? Do you think any of them are like, man, I can't wait to be a hero and get all this fucking attention on me because I went in and took out a school shooter after she murdered fucking 3 people or 6 people. I know that they had nothing to do with the timing or how the shooter got in. I'm saying when you heap that kind of praise, nobody wants to be that hero.
Right? I bet you they're not sitting at home and be like, man, I can't wait to go to that hockey game next season. Go out on that ice and get that medal, dude.
They're gonna honor me. I'll never have a fucking empty
give
glass
it fucking 2 weeks to make those cops heroes. Let's make it about the 6 dead fucking people, 3 of them being children. Let's pay respect to the parents, not the transgenders, not the cops, not the fucking conspiracies. Let's just honor the 3 dead kids. And maybe the adults. I'm not even sure that we need to do the adults. Let's just do the fucking kids to make it easy. I think we could all agree on that.
Yes. And kudos to the cops. They're going to get their due. And I promise, like I said, they're phenomenal at what they've done. But they've also been through something very fucking traumatic. The fire alarm's going off. You're at an active shooter. You never think it's going to happen to you, but you train it has. Your heart is pounding out of your veins are coursing with adrenaline, and sure enough, it's it's like the World Series, fucking bases loaded, 2 outs, 2 strikes, and the manager comes out and says, "Hey, you right-hander, come out," and you got to fucking throw that last pitch. And my God, I mean, the world is basically depending on you, and then you fucking kill a human being. I would think that would work on your mind a little bit. I don't know that whether it's celebratory or whether it's just, man, I just killed somebody or I need to process it or whatever. But you don't need Fox News knocking on your door asking you for a comment. Fucking chill. Everyone just chill out.
Yeah.
I got to go to Vegas, dude.
Those
fucking
guys need
chill out.
Yeah, just chill the fuck out for just a second. Jesus. Yeah, man. Anyway, that's our take on this whole situation. Great job on the cops though, but honestly, I really just, my heart goes out to the children. They didn't deserve this.
No.
And I think we can all agree that they did not deserve this. I don't know about the adults, right? I don't know what the adults had to play in this, but I think, just for argument's sake, I don't know why anybody isn't just, our hearts and prayers go out to the 3 little kids who lost their lives. I don't know that this should put you in the mood for fucking ice cream. That was how the president decided to open up his speech and address the nation about this, was some colloquial jokes. Did I say that right? Colloquial?
Yes.
Jokes.
You said it right for Eric. Yeah.
For right. What's the right word?
Bizarre, man.
Yeah, bizarre. It was like he got up for a stand-up comedy routine, which was really weird. Made a lot of jokes before he got real serious. I thought that was extremely inappropriate. I think it's inappropriate that the news doesn't want to talk about that. That was disgusting. It put a pit in my stomach. If Donald Trump did something like that, if George Bush did something like that, Obama did something like that, which none of those guys were so fucking stupid that they would have done something like that. That nobody, I've never heard in my life somebody fucking make ice cream jokes before they talk about 3 innocent children being murdered. Absolutely disgusting display of leadership there.
In the following
and a magnificent display of what happens when your brain deteriorates from Alzheimer's.
In the following day, make a statement, literally the statement from the President of the United States saying the transgender community is the soul of America. It's not. It's not the soul of America. I'm sorry. I'm accepting of the trans community.
Firefighters are the
care.
Soul of America. We all know that.
Yeah.
We all know that the firefighters are the souls of America.
Yeah, people that work on the
firefighters, the state troopers.
Yeah,
and
skateboarders. Yeah.
And
the ice cream guy, the ice cream people.
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, until next week, guns up and giddy up. Safe travels, safe flight to Vegas. If you guys see Drew Breasy in Vegas, give him
Do
a
not
little,
approach.